Hello children, how are you all? I know that you all are fine like sunshine, and also you all are super excited to know what I have for you today. Today also we are going to appreciate a very interesting literary text, a poem. Let's see what's the poem that you are going to enjoy with me. Yes, it's a poem that you like a lot, Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Richard Cory by Edwin Arlington Robinson. If you want, you can call him E.A. Robinson. Richard Cory by E.A. Robinson. So, before we are going to learn more about this interesting poem, it had better if you have an idea about the poet Edwin Arlington Robinson. So, you can see there are some facts given here for you to have an understanding about the poet Edwin Arlington Robinson. So, he was born in 1869 and he died in 1935. He was an American poet, and most of his poems deal with conditions of humans. What are the conditions of humans? Conditions of humans are about the fact that whether the people are happy or sad, whether they are frustrated or whether they are disappointed. So, those are the things about conditions of humans. So, in most of his poems, the poet deals with conditions of humans. And also he has won many prestigious awards. Pulitzer Prize for Poetry for 3 times, a gold medal for poetry from the American Academy of Arts and Letters. And the particular poem we are going to enjoy today, Richard Cory, was published in 1897. That means a long time ago. That means more than 100 years back. So, based on these facts, you have to write a comprehensive paragraph about the poet Edwin Arlington Robinson. Let's see how you can do this. Edwin Arlington Robinson. He was an American poet who was born in 1869. Most of his poems deal with conditions of humans. He won many awards in his lifetime as a poet. He won Pulitzer Prize for Poetry 3 times and a gold medal for poetry from the American Academy of Arts and Letters. His poem Richard Cory was published in 1897. He died in 1935. Now, you have a better understanding about the poet. Let's enjoy the poem now. So, I am going to read the poem in the first stanza. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown, we people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from sole to crown, clean favored and imperially slim. Whenever Richard Cory went downtown. So, there was a person named Richard Cory. He went downtown. That means he went to the city. There was a person named Richard Cory. One day he went to the city. We people on the pavement looked at him. We people on the pavement. Where can we see the pavement? Besides the roads, we can see the pavement. That is the lower level place. So, while Richard Cory was walking, we people on the pavement looked at him. So, the people had to look up to see who this Richard Cory was. we people on the pavement looked at him. So, they looked at this wonderful personality, Richard Cory. So, we people on the pavement, that means the people who are living on the pavement, or maybe the poor people or the lower class of people. So, all of them were admiring this particular personality named Richard Cory. We people on the pavement looked at him. He was a gentleman from sole to crown. He was a gentleman. He was a perfect gentleman. He was a perfect, nice person from sole to crown. From sole to crown, that means from head to toe. So, completely he was a gentleman. He was a nice person. Clean favored and imperially slim. Clean favored. He dressed very nicely. He dressed very neatly, and he was so concerned about his cleanliness of his appearance. Clean favored and imperially slim. Imperially, that is related to kingship. So, he was like a king, imperially, and slim also. That means he had a stature, a physique, a unique physique, which made him outstanding, which made him a particular kind of an attractive person. So, this person, Richard Cory, he was a very attractive looking personality, and he dressed nicely. That is the idea in the first stanza. So, there was this person named Richard Cory, and we people on the pavement, the poor or the lower level of society, they looked at him in a kind of an awestruck kind of a look they gave him. So, they were surprised to see this person, Richard Cory. He was a gentleman from sole to crown. He was a real gentleman in the real sense. He was a perfect gentleman, clean favored. He dressed neatly and imperially slim. That means he was like a king, and he had a nice physique. Let us look at the second stanza. And he was always quietly arrayed, and he was always human when he talked. But still he fluttered pulses when he said good morning, and he glittered when he walked, and he was always quietly arrayed. That means he dressed nicely, and he talked impressively. He talked very friendly with everyone. He was always quietly arrayed, and he was always human when he talked. He talked with all in a very polite manner. He was very courteous. He was very polite and courteous, and he talked with all, even we people on the pavement, even with the people on the pavement, in a very friendly manner. That means he was very modest. That means he was very modest. He was very modest and very humble, a very down to earth person. He was such a gentleman. He talked with all in a very polite manner. But still he fluttered pulses when he said good morning, and he glittered when he walked. So, when he said someone good morning, when he greeted someone saying good morning, their heartbeat became faster. That means they were so happy. This particular, unique, attractive Richard Cory greeted them saying good morning. So, they were so happy, even we people on the pavement. So, he talked it all in a nice manner and greeted everyone he met saying good morning. And he glittered when he walked. So, he was like a star. He was like a star. He glittered when he walked. So, everybody looked at him everybody looked at this amazing personality. So he glittered when he walked. So the poet says that he glittered when he walked. So he was like a star, a celebrity kind of character, a very famous person among the wee people on the pavement in his society. So he was a perfect gentleman. He was a perfect human being. Let's look at the next stanza. I am going to read the stanza for you. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king, and admirably schooled in every grace. In fine, we thought that he was everything, to make us wish that we were in his place. And he was rich, he was very rich, yes, richer than a king. That's a hyperbolic language. Richer than a king. He was richer than a king. We think that kings are rich, but here this person is richer than a king. And he was rich, yes, richer than a king. He was very rich. Maybe he was a multimillionaire. He was a very rich person. And admirably schooled in every grace. Admirably, everybody admired him, because he was such a lovely personality, because he was such a perfect human being, because he was such a nice gentleman. Admirably schooled in every grace. Schooled means well educated. He was well educated. Admirably schooled in every grace, in every manner. Whatever he did nicely. Talking, walking, moving with someone else, he did it such a perfect manner. He was admired by all in his society, in his community. Admirably schooled in every grace. So he was such a perfect personality. In fine, we thought that he was everything. So we, the people on the pavement, the other people in his society, in fine, we thought that he was everything, because Richard Cory had everything a man should have. He had the attractive look, he had enough money, maybe he had luxurious cars, vehicles, maybe he had a nice house. So in fine, we thought that he was everything. To what extent? To make us wish that we were in his place. So all the people who admired Richard Cory wanted to be like him, wanted to be rich like him, wanted to be so perfect like Richard Cory. There, Richard Cory became a role model for others to follow, because Richard Cory was such a perfect person that all the others wanted to be like him. Fourth stanza. Let's see what is in the fourth stanza. I am going to read the stanza for you. So on we worked and waited for the light, and went without the meat, and cursed the bread. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home and put a bullet through his head. So on we worked, we people on the pavement, the poor people on the pavement. So on we worked and waited for the light. So they waited for the light to start their work again, to do some sort of business, to survive themselves in their community. So on we worked and waited for the light, and went without the meat. So they didn't have enough money to eat meat, and cursed the bread, because they had the bread all the time, so they didn't want it anymore. They didn't want to eat it anymore. They cursed the bread. That means they didn't enjoy their meal, because they had bread all the time, maybe bread with some dal curry or something. So they didn't enjoy that meal. They didn't have a luxurious life like what Richard Cory had, what Richard Cory enjoyed himself in his beautiful house. So on we worked, because they should work to survive, to earn some money. So on we worked and waited for the light, and went without the meat, and cursed the bread. They didn't like the meal at all. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night. And Richard Cory, very important this line. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, went home, he went home and put a bullet through his head. That is something shocking. That is something surprising. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night. Summer is the time period people enjoy themselves. They go out, they do sunbathing. So that's the time period they can enjoy. But here we have a different picture. And Richard Cory, one calm summer night, he went home and put a bullet through his head. He committed suicide. That is something surprising. He committed suicide. So why did he commit suicide? We don't know exactly. But what we can say, Richard Cory had everything a person should have. He had money, he had social recognition, everybody respected him, everybody admired him, he had nice education, he was very well educated, and he had a nice physique also. He was a very attractive person, but still he committed suicide. So what's the message we have here? So we people on the pavement curse the bread. So the idea is that we have different levels of living patterns based on the way we earn money. Sometimes we have a lot of money, sometimes we don't have a lot of money, but whatever we have, as human beings, we need to satisfy ourselves. We need to be contented, thinking that at least we have something. So definitely we should not compare and contrast ourselves with others. We should be contented with what we have. So curse the bread is not good. They should be happy with what they have. At least they have a piece of bread. But there may be people in the outside world, in our society, who can't even afford to have a piece of bread. So in that sense, we people on the pavement, they are lucky, at least they have bread. And when it comes to Richard Cory, he had everything he wanted. So other people thought that he was well satisfied, that he was contented, that he was happy, but still he committed suicide. By looking at his outward appearance, a nice physique, nicely dressed, nicely talking with others, other people thought that he was perfect in everything, he was happy, but still there's a question, he committed suicide. Richard Cory committed suicide. So there are Richard Corys in our society. There are people like Richard Cory who have everything, maybe who have luxurious cars, who have beautiful mansions, who enjoy their lives. They travel in other parts of the world, they spend money a lot for fun and enjoyment, but still there's a question, are they happy? Are they satisfied with what they have? Material wealth is there, of course, money, houses, luxurious cars, all are there, but still inner peace of mind is more important. So maybe in Richard Cory's case, he had all the physical comforts that he wanted, but within himself maybe he lacked inner peace of his mind. He might have had a problem within himself, but we don't know exactly what was the reason why he committed suicide. Since you all are grown-ups, I want to tell you a story. Very recently, one student who did GCE O-level examination went missing for some days. He was found after 5 days, and when the police and the parents inquired about why he did something like that, he told his parents that he did something like that because he had so much pressure on him that he didn't want to do the papers. He didn't want to sit for the exam anymore. The parents were pushing him so much that he rejected that pressure from his parents by not sitting for that exam. So, there is a big lesson we should learn here. Doing examinations is a part of our life. Daily in our life, we are battling with something. We have battles, we have exams everywhere. Life is a kind of an exam we need to pass. If we get fail, then there is a problem. So, we can't give excuses saying that since we have examinations, we can't move on our lives. No, examination is a must. Examination tests you, your capabilities, your strengths and your weaknesses. So, you need to understand the fact that examinations is a part of your life. Problems are there for human beings. We all have problems. Maybe financial problems, we don't have much money. Maybe parental problems. Maybe brothers and sisters problems. Maybe friends problems. Whatever the problem we have, we need to tackle them in an intelligent manner. So, in Richard Cory's case, maybe he had a problem, but he didn't try to find a solution to his problem. So, here it is definitely about controlling emotions. Emotions are very important. We need to control emotions very well. I might get angrier, or maybe if I am very angry, if I become so angry, I feel like doing something bad. So, if a person gets very angry, his level goes up, and that might lead him to kill someone. So, we need to control our emotions very well. If a person is highly depressed, your emotional level goes down, then you might feel like committing suicide. So, in Richard Cory's case, he could not handle his emotions very well. So, the result was committing suicide. Maybe he didn't have any person to share his burden. Maybe he didn't want to share his burden with anyone else, but others thought that he was perfect in everything. So, what's the lesson we can learn here? Appearance can be deceptive. We can't judge a person's happiness just by looking at his outward appearance. If a person dresses nicely, if he has a nice car, if he has a nice house, most of the time we people think that he is happy. Maybe he is not. So, what matters is inner peace of mind. That's the lesson we can learn from this poem. Since you have a better idea about the poem, let's do an activity. Read the poem and answer the questions. Now, you have some questions to answer. Let's see what are the questions you have. Who is the narrator of the poem? Who does he talk about? What does the narrator say about Richard Cory's physical appearance, Richard Cory's personality, and also his economic status? What did people around Richard Cory wish for? What did Richard Cory do in the end? Who is the narrator of the poem? Who does he talk about? What does the narrator say about Richard Cory's physical appearance, his personality, and his economic status? What did people around Richard Cory wish for? What did Richard Cory do in the end? The poor people in the town, or maybe the pavement dwellers. Who do they talk about? They talk about Richard Cory, this fantastic personality. What do the narrators say about Richard Cory's physical appearance? He looked very clean, clean-favored and neat. He had a very attractive, handsome look. What about his personality? He was a well-educated, well-schooled, well-mannered. He was very polite with everyone. Real gentleman in the real sense. He was a perfect gentleman. He was friendly with everyone and greeted all with a smiling face. He was a very humble, down-to-earth personality. He was a very modest person. He was a well-educated, well-mannered, real gentleman in the real sense. He was friendly with everyone and greeted all with a smiling face. He was a very humble, down-to-earth personality. He was such a lovely personality that others wanted to be like him. How about his economic status? He was very rich and wealthy, richer than a king. That's how the poet tells about Richard Cory, richer than a king. He was very rich and very wealthy. What did people around Richard Cory wish for? They wanted to be rich and well behaved like Richard Cory. They wanted to be like Richard Cory. So when we look at a very rich person who has a fancy car, who has a lot of money, we think, why don't we become like him? I want to be like him. We might think like that. The same idea is given here. They wanted to be rich and well behaved like Richard Cory. Fifth question, what did Richard Cory do in the end? What did he do? He committed suicide by shooting himself on the head. He committed suicide by shooting himself on the head because he was so depressed, he was so frustrated for a reason which we don't know. He committed suicide at the end of the poem. Now you have another very interesting, very simple activity to do. Let's see what you have to do. Underline all the adjectives you can use to describe Richard Cory. Now you know about Richard Cory, what kind of person he was. Underline all the adjectives you can use to describe Richard Cory. I am going to read all the adjectives on the screen. Wealthy, polite, privileged, tastefully dressed, handsome, well-mannered, cultured, courteous, rude, well-bred, arrogant, humane, glamorous, vain, silly, and good-looking. Wealthy, polite, privileged, tastefully dressed, handsome, well-mannered, cultured, courteous, rude, well-bred, arrogant, humane, glamorous, vain, silly, and good-looking. So you have to choose the adjectives to describe this amazing personality, Richard Cory. Let's do this together. So here you can see underlined adjectives. Some adjectives have been underlined. What are the adjectives that we have here? Wealthy, yes, he was a very rich person. Polite, of course he was polite. He talked with all in such a polite manner. Other people wanted to be like him. They admired him so much. And privileged, that means Richard Cory had all the comforts in the world. Privileged. He had enough money to enjoy any comfort in the world. Privileged. And tastefully dressed. He dressed nicely. He was a fashion conscious person. He dressed nicely, tastefully dressed. Handsome, he was handsome, of course. Imperially slim. Well mannered, that means he behaved with all in such an elegant way. He was well mannered. Cultured, because he was very well educated, he was cultured too. He talked with all in a very pleasant manner and courteous. That means he was very polite with others. Was he rude? Rude means that you are not friendly with others. So he was not rude. So it's not underlined. Well bred, that means he was very well educated. Well bred, so he was well bred. Was he arrogant? Arrogant means very proud about that person for a reason, maybe about the look or maybe about the wealth. But here Richard Cory was not arrogant. He was a very down to earth, very modest personality, very humble personality. Humane, yes, of course he was humane, because he talked with all, including we people on the pavement, including the poor people on the pavement. He talked with all in a very pleasant way. He was very polite. He did not look down on anyone. He talked with all in a very pleasant manner. He never looked down on anyone, thinking they were poor. He treated all equally. That was a very nice quality as a human being. So he was humane. Glamorous, of course. When he walked, everybody looked at him. He was looking so glamorous, beautifully dressed, very nice physique, an attractive stature. So he was glamorous. And vain. Vain means, was he vain? Vain means having a very high opinion about yourself. He was not vain. He was very down to earth. He was very humble. He was very modest. A perfect gentleman in the real sense. Was he silly? Silly means foolish. Was he foolish? There's a question whether he was foolish. Yes, he might be foolish because he committed suicide. Don't know the exact reason why he has committed suicide. And good looking. Was he good looking? Yes, he was good looking. Everybody looked at him. Everybody admired him. Now there is another activity for you. Match words and phrases with their meanings. So you have been given certain words from the poem and of course the meanings, and you have to match the words and phrases with their meanings. I am going to read the words for you, words and phrases for you. I am to read the words and phrases for you. Downtown, soul, crown, imperially slim. Let's look at the meanings. The undersurface of a person's foot, commercial area of a town or city. It is an American English term, right? Let's see what is that term. Slender and regal looking, the top part of the head. Downtown, soul, crown, imperially slim. The meanings: the undersurface of a person's foot, commercial area of a town or city, slender and regal looking, the top part of the head. You have three more phrases: clean favored, fluttered pulses, curse the bread. Now let's look at the meanings. Caused excitement, did not enjoy their food, with clean cut pleasant features. Now based on these words and phrases with their meanings, you have to match each other. What is downtown? The meaning is commercial area of a town or city. So downtown is an American English term. Sole. Sole means the undersurface of a person's foot. Crown, the top part of the head. Imperially slim, like a king. Slender and regal looking. Slender means having a nice physique, and regal looking means like a king, like a royal figure. Clean favored, with clean cut pleasant features. He always had a pleasant smile on his face. Fluttered pulses caused excitement when Richard Cory greeted all, saying good morning. They had fluttered pulses. It caused much excitement among the people in Richard Cory's community. Curse the bread, that means did not enjoy their food. They did not want to have bread all the time. Downtown, commercial area of a town or city. Sole, the undersurface of a person's foot. Crown, the top part of the head. Imperially slim, slender and regal looking. Clean favored, with clean cut, pleasant features. Fluttered pulses caused excitement. Cursed the bread, did not enjoy their food. Now you have another activity, very interesting one, very easy one. Let's do it together too. Let's divide the poem into two parts as part 1 and part 2. So you have been given some sentences based on the poem. What you have to do, you have to divide the poem into two parts as part 1 and part 2. Part 1 includes the first stanza and the second stanza, what is in the first stanza and the second stanza. Part 2 includes what is in the third stanza and what is in the fourth stanza. So let's do it together, and I am going to read the sentences for you. When Richard Cory came to downtown, all the common people stood watching him. He was a complete gentleman. He was slender and very good looking. He dressed with good taste. He was very polite to people. People used to get excited when he talked to them. When Richard Cory came to downtown, all the common people stood watching him. They all looked at him like a celebrity was walking. When Richard Cory came to downtown, all the common people stood watching him because he was a very famous person in his community. He was a complete gentleman. He was a perfect gentleman, a real gentleman in the real sense. He was slender and very good looking. He was well built and he was very good looking, very attractive person. He dressed with good taste. He was a fashion conscious person. He dressed with good taste. This is for you. Let's see what those sentences are. He was a dashing or dazzling figure. Richard Cory was extremely wealthy. He was well versed in social graces. People thought he was perfect in every way. People longed to be in his place. On one summer evening, Richard Cory went home and shot himself. He was a dazzling figure. He was a very attractive figure, very glamorous personality. Richard Cory was extremely wealthy. He was richer than a king. That's how the poet says. He was richer than a king. He was extremely wealthy. He had all the comforts, all the wealth in the world, it seems. He was very rich. He was well versed in social graces since he was very well educated. He was well versed in social graces. He knew exactly how to move with people, even the people on the pavement, even with the poor people, even with the lower level people, those who are in the lower level of the society, in the stratified society. So he knew how to talk. He knew how to talk with all in such a nice, pleasant manner. He was well versed in social graces. People thought he was perfect in every way. All the people thought he had everything, so he was a perfect personality. He was a perfect gentleman. That's how they thought about Richard Cory before he committed suicide. People longed to be in his place, so people wanted to be like Richard Cory. They wanted to be rich like Richard Cory. They wanted to be attractive like Richard Cory. So people wanted to be in his place. They longed to be in his place. On one summer evening, Richard Cory went home and shot himself. He committed suicide. That was something shocking. So, let us see what are the sentences that come under the part 1 from the first stanza and also from the second stanza. Part 1 is based on the first 2 stanzas of the poem. When Richard Cory came to downtown, all the common people stood watching him. When Richard Cory came to downtown, all the common people stood watching him. He was a complete gentleman. He was slender and very good looking. He dressed with good taste. He was very polite to people. People used to get excited when he talked to them. He was a dashing or dazzling figure. How about part 2? Part 2 is based on the third stanza and the fourth stanza in the poem. Part 2 is based on the last 2 stanzas of the poem. Richard Cory was extremely wealthy. He was well versed in social graces. People thought he was perfect in every way. People longed to be in his place. On one summer evening, Richard Cory went home and shot himself. So, that is the part 2. So, there is a question, very important question. Why did you divide the poem this way? Why did you divide the poem into part 1 and part 2? Let us see what is the answer. Because the first 2 stanzas are about Richard Cory's positive qualities as a noble human being. He was very polite with everyone. He greeted all with a nice manner. He was very down to earth. He was very modest. He was very humble. He dressed neatly. So, all the qualities were positive, because the first 2 stanzas are about Richard Cory's positive qualities as a noble human being. He was a noble human being. Last 2 stanzas are about the negative qualities of Richard Cory and how the poor wanted to be like him. So, we people on the pavement wanted to be like Richard Cory. The poor people wanted to be like Richard Cory, a rich person like Richard Cory. And he committed suicide. He shot himself. That is the negative quality. So, why did you divide the poem this way? Because the first 2 stanzas are about Richard Cory's positive qualities as a noble human being. Last 2 stanzas are about the negative qualities of Richard Cory and how the poor wanted to be like him. Now, we are going to look at the meanings of certain lines in the poem. What is meant by these lines? So, we are going to learn about these lines in detail to have a deeper idea about the poem. He was a gentleman from soul to crown, and he was always human when he talked, and he glittered when he walked, and admirably schooled in every grace. In fine, we thought that he was everything, to make us wish that we were in his place. He was a gentleman from soul to crown. That means he was a complete gentleman. He was a complete gentleman. And he was always human when he talked. He was very polite to people. And he glittered when he walked. He was a dashing or dazzling figure. And he glittered when he walked. He was like a star. He was like a celebrity, a famous person in his community. So, he was a dashing or dazzling figure. He was a very attractive personality. And admirably schooled in every grace. What does that mean? He was well versed. He was very well educated in social graces. He knew exactly how to behave in different circumstances, in different social gatherings, in different contexts, with different kinds of people. He was well versed in social graces. He knew how to talk with each and every person he met in his life. He was well versed in social graces. In fine, we thought that he was everything. In fine, we thought that he was everything. To make us wish that we were in his place. People thought that he was perfect in every way. Others thought that Richard Cory was perfect. He was a perfect gentleman. So they longed, they wished to be in his place. They wanted to be like Richard Cory. That much attraction was there for Richard Cory. They admired him so much. Others wanted to be like Richard Cory, including we people on the pavement, the poor. Now you have another activity to do. Let's see what you have to do. Select from the given information and complete the data sheet. So you have been given some information about the poem, and based on information you have to complete the data sheet. You have 4, quatrain, narrative, glittered when he walked, fluttered pulses, casual, appearance versus reality, material wealth does not bring happiness, the general assumption that the rich and the privileged are happy is not true, simple and clear, the man who was rich, handsome, cultured and admired by everybody committed suicide. So this is the data sheet that you have to fill in by using the given information. Based on the given information, you have to fill in this data sheet. Style, language, number of stanzas, type of stanzas, tone, metaphor, hyperbole, irony and themes. So what's the style in this poem? It's like a story. So style is narrative. It's like we are reading a story. Once there was a person like Richard Cory. He had so many good qualities and other people wanted to be like him, and one day he committed suicide. So it was like a story. We are reading a story. Narrative style. And language. Language is very simple and very clear. Language is very simple and clear. Very simple words are there for you to understand the poem very well. Simple and clear. How about the number of stanzas? There are 4 stanzas. 4 stanzas. Type of stanzas, it's called quatrain. Quatrain is a 4-line stanza. So there are 4 4-line stanzas in the poem. But how about the tone? It's casual. It's just an ordinary tone. How about the metaphor? Fluttered pulses, that when Richard Cory greeted others, their heartbeat became faster. Fluttered pulses, they were so excited that Richard Cory greeted them saying good morning. Fluttered pulses. So that's a metaphor in the poem. Hyperbole, that means saying something more than necessary. Exaggeration is there. Glittered when he walked. So is it possible that when somebody walks that the person is glittering? No, it's not possible. Stars can glitter, but not persons. So glittered when he walked is definitely a hyperbolic language. Hyperbole, say more than necessary to admire the way he walked, the way Richard Cory walked. Hyperbole, exaggeration. Glittered when he walked. What is the irony in the poem? The man who was rich, handsome, cultured and admired by everybody committed suicide. So this man had everything. He was rich, he was handsome, he was cultured and he was admired by everybody, but he committed suicide. That's the irony, that's the sad part of this. When a person has all these things, we think that he is so happy. But the irony, the sad part is that he committed suicide. So that's the irony in this situation. Normally when a person has all these things, they have beautiful lives. They don't commit suicide. But here, the particular person, Richard Cory, he committed suicide. That's the irony here. That is something which we did not expect. What are the themes? What are the messages the poet wants to convey through this poem? Appearance versus reality. Appearance, the outward appearance, sometimes can be deceptive. The reality can be different. Richard Cory had the look, he had money, he had everything a person should have, but still he committed suicide. That's the reality. That means he had a problem which we don't know. So, appearance versus reality. So, outward appearance can be deceptive. If you really want to understand a person better, you need to associate with that person, not just by looking at the person outwardly, thinking that he has a big car, he has a big house, he has a beautiful family. No, you need to associate with that person to have a better understanding about that person. So, remember, appearance can be deceptive. Material wealth does not bring happiness. Of course, Richard Cory had everything that a person should have. He had money, he had social recognition, he had a nice house, but still he committed suicide. Material wealth does not bring happiness. The general assumption that the rich and the privileged are happy is not true. It's not true. So, those are the themes in the poem. Read the sayings given below. Underline the sayings that are similar to the themes in the poem. Appearances are deceptive. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Money can't buy happiness. An obstacle is often a stepping stone. You never truly know someone until you have walked a mile in his shoes. So, these are the underlined sayings. Appearances are deceptive. Richard Cory had the look and everything, but still he committed suicide. Appearances are deceptive. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Money can't buy happiness, of course. An obstacle is often a stepping stone. You never truly know someone until you have walked a mile in his shoes. To understand a person better, you need to associate with that person. So, these are more poetic devices in the poem. Symbol. Richard Cory has been presented as a symbol of personality. The excellent qualities are contributed to adorn his character. He is a gentleman in the real sense of the word. He is simple and modest. He is well ordered in his external appearance. He is humane when he speaks with others. He is graceful and shines when he appears before others. Flashback, because this is a past incident. This poem is a collection of past memories. Therefore, the whole incident is presented in the past tense using the verbs such as went, looked, talked, fluttered, and glittered. Usage of the idiomatic language, that means indirect language, has been used in the poem. We people on the pavement, so on we worked and waited for the light, and went without the meat and cursed the bread. The poet mentions about the poverty and simplicity of the common people indirectly in the poem. The poet mentions about the poverty and simplicity of the common people indirectly in the poem. Visual imageries. There are some instances where we can build up the visual imagery of Richard Cory. Imperial slim, quietly arrayed, glittered when he walked. These phrases build up a very attractive gentleman who is the center focus in his community. Hyperbole. Richard Cory is richer than a king. Here the poet exaggerates the wealth Richard Cory possesses. And paradox. Two contrasting situations are brought together. And Richard Cory one calm summer night went home and put a bullet through his head. Richard Cory was a good gentleman who had excellent qualities, but he suddenly committed suicide. Let's wrap up what we learned today about this poem Richard Cory. The image of Richard Cory is presented as a gentleman, a good Samaritan who becomes the center focus in his community. All in his society long to be like him. He is a role model to all in the community. Though Richard Cory has almost all comforts in the world, with his attractive look, he commits suicide. The poet Robinson in the poem highlights that appearance can be deceptive sometimes. He also questions the false social values and different perspectives of social standards in the poem Richard Cory. So, with this, I think you got a better idea about this interesting poem. Now, you know the reason why this poem has been chosen, because this poem is relevant into the present day world. There are Richard Corys among us. So, we need to understand the fact that appearance can be deceptive. Material wealth is not enough to be happy as a person. What matters is inner peace of mind. So, with that, I am going to wind up my lesson. So, I hope that you enjoyed the lesson with me, and let's meet again with another interesting literary text like this. Till then, have a nice day.